the great honor of talking to Dr. Richard Bandler today, the originator and co-creator of Neuro-linguistic programming. Dr. Bandler, thank you for your time today.
You bet.
Thank you. My first question to you is, what are the advantages of taking an NLP practitioner course?
Well, the advantages is that neuro-linguistic programming, unlike most other disciplines, is learning about thinking on purpose and the structure of how people think versus remember. That most of the time when people say, I'm thinking, they're actually remembering. They see certain things and they feel the same way and they keep repeating that process. And, when people say, I don't have enough confidence about something, you can always say, are you certain? And they always say yes. So the fact is they have certainty and uncertainty. It's only a question of when. When people, tasks you learn in school to become a good speller, if you make big letters in your head and copy them down, you'll be a good speller. You try to do it phonetically, you won't be. The process by which spelling is done, the process by which people get over fears, the process by which these things have occurred, have been what we have extracted over the years. And in a prac course, the job is to teach people the formulas we have that work. So for 7 days, people are inundated in a new way of thinking about thinking and skills that accomplish certain tasks.
Right.
And the tip of the iceberg, really, because it's kindergarten, is that it shows you the direction about how to figure out the rest of this. Now, a lot of that is in the Master Prac course, but I've seen people who have taken courses where they spent 6 months working on the meta model, and that's counterproductive. You need to learn these things fast because that's how the brain learns. You take a deck of cards, you draw stick figures on it, you flip through it, the stick figure gets up and dances. I hand you one a week for 5 years, you'll have no idea what they do. There are some things you can learn quickly and some you learn slowly. The brain identifies by patterning, so we teach courses where we run these patterns by fast, both consciously and unconsciously, to install them in people so that they can then go back and practice over the weeks and months ahead, and hopefully come back and get another level of that. To me, I think that's the proper kind of training. One step further, I think I've trained the best people to do that over the years. And if you go to somebody I trained 30 years ago, then they're not going to be as good as somebody I trained last year, because I know more now than I did then. I know more about how to do it. And that's why trainers have to be recertified every 2 years. I want to know people stay in the state of the art. And if you want the best person with the best training, that's the best representation of what I'm doing, then you get the people that are a licensed certified training. And then the date is current. That's how you do it. And that's my guarantee to you. Now, if somebody else just went out and got a printer and ran through and made themselves a trainer, and it'll say trainer of NLP, I'm afraid that doesn't mean they know anything. And if somebody else gave them a certificate that said they were a trainer, the word that pops into my mind is refund, because how can you take things out of my books and go and teach people without my permission? I put books out in the past 5 years, and people are teaching things that are in that book without my permission. I can't release them all, but certainly you should say to yourself, if they'll steal from Richard, they might steal from me. It's a question of ethics. And there's no reason for people to do anything other than get certified training. You'll get the certificate you deserve, and I sign every single certificate by every single practitioner and every single master practitioner with a pen in ink. And if you're looking at one and it looks photostat, it's not. I sign with ink on every single certificate. And believe me, it's tedious, but I do it because I want to see who you are, memorize your name, and know these are the people that I've trained. And, if you go to a dentist, you should always get the best dentist you can get, or a surgeon. You should find out that their patients have lived. You should find out the students of the people you're going to learn from and make sure that they're happy. And that's not even enough. You should make sure that they're being taught by somebody that knows what they're doing.
Wonderful. People talk about happiness nowadays. Everybody wants to be happy. And so many people spend their lives chasing after happiness.
That's one of the dwarfs in Snow White, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be happy. What would you say is the most common limiting belief about happiness?
is that it's a place you go as opposed to something that you do every day. Happy is actually not a noun describing a place. It's actually an adverb that modifies a verb. One works happily. So the trick is what state of consciousness do you go in? Because there are lots of happy states, the state of desire, the state of creativity, there are lots of pleasant, happy states. And how do you spend more time in them doing the things that you have to do? How do you have more enjoyment from every moment of every day? And I think that's done by thinking on purpose. That if you don't know how to make your feelings get stronger and diminished with certain things, then your feelings will take you places. And that's based on being a victim of your memories, as opposed to being a conscious organism that adapts to the environment and uses your senses wisely. And this is the major thing that NLP teaches you, is how to be a free human being. In societies where they're not pointing a gun at your head every day, people wander off, they start making decisions. I'm going to buy a lemon versus I'm going to buy a lime. Every time we have more and more choice, we have more and more freedom in our lives. The more money you have, I live in a culture full of 360 million people who are utterly free and at the doorstep of any possibility of level of wealth. People come here with nothing, the shirt on their back, and become rich people in 5 years. There are people who are born here and never get off of welfare because they haven't broken the chains in their mind and looked at the world of possibility. Nothing is a greater tool than the cognitive ability that NLP gives you to be able to decide which chains are fastened down and which ones aren't, and to be able to change your perspective on your situation and where you're going, to help you to make better decisions, to motivate yourself on purpose. And without purpose, no one is happy. All the people that I modeled for the books, The Secrets of Being Happy, no matter how bad their life got, whether they were in concentration camps, they all had that goal that said, this is where I'm going. And not I'm going to be happy when I get there, but I'm going to happily go there. And that's the big mistake. People think you're supposed to get happy when you land someplace. If I was rich, I'd be happy. No, you won't. You'd just be a very rich, unhappy person. Happiness is something you do, not something you find.
Right. Can NLP be used in education and learning languages?
Well, I don't really want to talk about learning languages. That's a little more complicated than I want to get into. NLP is education. It is not therapeutic. That's a big misnomer. We're not a bunch of hiding therapists and counselors. We're educators. We're not fixing anything. We're educating people in how to think in a way where they're successful. We have modeled successful thinking that produces. Even getting over a fear of escalators, we find people who get over these fears. They think about it differently than you do. We teach you how to think about it like them so that your fear disappears and it becomes no big deal, as opposed to going back and finding out where your fear of escalators came from and whether your mother loved you enough and whether your daddy bought you a pony or whatever the hell is going on in that archaeological dig that psychology is on. We're not upper conditioning you, we're training you to think better. And in schools, I have a book coming out with Kate Benson where we're going through the whole thing. How do you add? How do you multiply? How are these tasks actually done? How do you remember better? How do you remember plays? How do you remember things? How do you do creative writing? All of these things we're going to lay out the strategies for so that elementary school teachers will know how to teach people to think. Then they can start giving them words and problems. Because right now they're just giving you content and telling you to master it, and some kids are and some aren't. And we have to teach people how you think these things and how they're ingrained in our unconscious. Because most learning has to be unconscious before it functions well. And I believe this book is going to change the face of education because it's a real step in the direction of trying to me, we need to catch up with our machines, which are reprogrammable. We keep teaching people things at school, And they're teaching, because I saw my grandkids' books, they're teaching them the same stuff in the 5th grade that I was in the 5th grade and they taught. And that's ludicrous. We should know more about how learning is done now than we ever did. And part of the reason I don't want people learning the way I did 40 years ago is it took too long. I think you should buy my latest book and read backwards rather than the first book and suffer as much as I did. You know, we need to be able to make it so that knowledge is evolving at the rate that our machines are.
Right. You use a lot of hypnosis in your work as well. How do you cut through the misconception about it and help to educate others to enjoy it?
Well, I don't really have a lot of problem with that. If people have misconceptions about things, that's my job. I'm a pretty good hypnotist, so I don't worry about it. But all the hypnosis I do is to make people feel better and be more in control. I think of hypnosis, you know, I think of trance. It equals for me the word concentration. I teach people to concentrate so well they can do what they can't do in their normal waking state, because they don't concentrate enough to do it. I teach people how to have a better memory, control their heart rate, their blood pressure. All of these things that are done through meditation and other things, I teach people through hypnosis to so focus. And when you add to it the adjunct of neuro-linguistic programming, I give them the proper strategies in those altered states to bring back to their conscious state so that it can evolve, so that they can be happier, more productive, and manifest more in the world. Because it's one thing to have great ideas, but if you don't manifest and actually, I was telling you earlier that what I think a scientist is somebody who actually builds stuff that works. That, you know, being a theoretician isn't being a scientist. It's mental masturbation in my world. And that a real scientist is, you know, the guy with the laser actually doing something. You know, if you make a toaster, it heats up toast. You know, you created something. And the machines that we're creating now that don't exist, you know, at one time that would have been thought to be absolutely impossible. Right. First computer I worked in was in a 4-story building. We had to wear 0 temperature jackets so that the machines didn't get hot. And, you know, we had intelligence terminals. There was paper spewing out at the rate of a tree an hour. And the idea that you could carry this little thing around in your hand would have been absolutely inconceivable. If you'd have said it would have happened in our lifetime, nobody would have believed you. But then they didn't believe we'd go to the moon. They didn't believe all kinds of stuff. Not believing things doesn't make you smart. It just means you never try. But when you start to believe in a powerful future where everything is possible, and people who, you know, are going, oh, hypnosis, you know, is bad for you, and it doesn't exist. I got a lot of that in the beginning, mostly from psychotherapists. They were, you shouldn't use hypnosis, and then they'd have people talking to empty chairs, talking to dead relatives in empty chairs and hallucinating them and listening to their answers. They were doing hypnosis, they just didn't know it. So I just began to describe it as ridiculous as it was. I'm sorry, but if you're hallucinating dead relatives and talking to them, you're in an altered state. And, you know, to me, you know, you have to get over the bugaboos in life. And, you know, the hypnosis has been misused, but so have toothbrushes in prison. So, you know, that doesn't mean we outlaw, you know, cutting clean teeth. What it means is you take a tool and you use it properly, it becomes a good tool. And I teach people to use hypnosis in a way that makes people's lives happier, easier, better, and has them move on quicker, faster, better. What more can you ask for?
Last question. What are the benefits of becoming a licensed NLP practitioner?
Well, there's always that chance you might step into an elevator someday with me. That's one of the advantages. Because I forget no one, especially people who steal from me. But the truth is if you're going to be a trainer, you should want to know the latest, greatest, best technology. And having access, right now, having access to me and John Laval and the group of people that surrounds us is the best way to have access to the latest information, because we're the ones doing everything. And to cut yourself off to that for no reason is just ridiculous. And to me, it's the bigger question is, why wouldn't you? It'd be stupid not to. You know, it's not like I'm telling you what to do as a trainer. I don't come spy on your classes. I don't tell you how to do it. I just offer you a greater range of tools. and all kinds of logistical support to keep you on, I'm like a reminder, there's more coming. You come back every couple of years and there's new stuff here, and if people go, nah, I'm not teaching anything new, I'm sticking with that shit we did 30 years ago, if to me, you would do it because it's the intelligent thing to do. To not do it would be as idiotic as you could possibly think. To go, but my allegiance is to somebody who stopped training 20 years ago. I mean, what the heck does that mean? If you're in a field, if you're a medical surgeon, your obligation is to learn the best techniques to heal your clients ASAP. I think if you're a teacher and you're teaching something, you should be teaching what's state of the art today. You can't just keep teaching people about Aristotle and expect them to function in the world. And, otherwise you should be teaching the history of NLP. And, so it's a weird question for me to ask me because I don't get why people do it. Maybe they think they're being independent or something. But I have yet to see large quantities of new techniques and technology come spurting out of these backwaters of what's left over trainers from years ago. I mean, I don't get even where they come from or where they have the nerve to do it. Because when you take out of people's books and their training manuals techniques and technologies and stuff off their videos and go teach it, it's a direct violation of international law. And, I'm not going to be out there suing everybody. Don't worry about it. I'm not coming after you. But there is that day you might step into that elevator.
And not step out.
Hey, I'm a really good hypnotist.
Dr. Bandler, it's truly been an honor and a privilege.
You bet.
Being able to.
This is Dr. Richard Bandler, and if you're getting training in Malaysia, I want to recommend Carsten. Carsten is the man to get trained with.